This is an emergency recording right here, man. I was not planning on recording anything until tonight. I was gonna be busy today. I'm recording this on Saturday. I'm gonna try to get this up tomorrow. But yo, nothing, and I mean nothing, was about to stop your boy from doing this road to Laugh Tale immediately. Because the moment that I saw the TCB post in their description, Gear 5th concept ideas? Gear 5th, I forgot what the post said. That's how hyped I was. I was like, hold up, wait. Y'all gotta give me at least 20 minutes to go talk about this on camera and actually see the Gear 5th scrap ideas, concept art, all this, because y'all know how much I love Gear 5th. Y'all know. So I was like, we're putting aside some time to do this Road to Laugh Tale Part 4. So that is what we are here to do. I am so excited, y'all. Tonight, we are back on Roof Piece for the anime, so I'm super excited for that, which is why I was like, you know what? This is an emergency recording. I'm not going to have time tonight. I'm not going to be home tomorrow. We got to do this now. We have to record this now. So I was like, you know what? Let's do it. It's Gear 5th, dog. I don't care. Listen. I just want to see what other ideas, I want to see what Oda initially came up with and how he got to the point of creating Luffy Tunes. Creating the coolest power ever, man. Like, I can't wait. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Road to Laugh Tale Part 4. This has been a really fun series to go back and just get a bunch of refreshers on, but also just gain a little bit of insight into the way in which they see the story, right? Like, these are the important things we should be looking out for, and since this is going to be the final Road to Laugh Tale, I'm going to assume this is going to have some very important stuff with some really cool things for us to see, whether it be refreshers or if Gear is, listen, as long as it has that Gear 5th section, this is the best Road to Laugh Tale. That's all that matters, you know? That's all that matters. So let's get right into it. Road to Laugh Tale. Oh, this is going to be peak fiction. This is going to be the greatest data book of all time. Road to Laugh Tale, and we see Gear 5th Luffy. Volume 4. Will Luffy and his crew finally make it to the last island? Laugh Tale. Like, y'all, starting from this week's chapter onward, we are on the road to Laugh Tale. No, actually, no. I was going to say no pun intended. All puns intended. All puns intended. We are on the road to Laugh Tale, starting from this week's chapter, man. What is waiting for them there? The adventure to find the One Piece is near its climax. It's emotional stuff, man. Emotional stuff. And here we get to see Gear 5th go with the coat right here. Did Oda always have this? Because we remember that note at Jump Festa where he was super, like, keep an eye on Luffy. I hope I draw it well. And I'm going to assume this is what he meant, right? Oh, I can't wait to see the concept art for that, man. Like, seriously, as a creative, all I want to see is the creative process behind how any of my favorite things are created, but especially this, right? This ability. I want to know what ran through Oda's head while he was creating the design, while he was coming up with the idea. Like, are we going to see tossed concepts for Gear 5th in terms of what Gear 5th was going to be? Or was Gear 5th always what it was? He just had to come up with a design. Like, I'm curious. I'm super curious. And here we see the GOAT panel among all GOAT panels. The GOAT panel, y'all. Luffy in Gear 5th from chapter 1044, catching him in the laughing, suffering from success pose. Yeah. Bounty rankings. Bounty rankings? Oh, we're going straight from bounty rankings? Bounty rankings to Concept Gallery Treasures Volume 4 to Secret Tales. So now I'm interested. Because I'm going to assume this is all going to be the bounties that we know so far. Of course, they're not going to let us know the bounties that haven't been revealed in this story up until this point. Well, maybe they are for characters that, like, just one-off characters or whatever. So I'm actually interested in that section. Let's see. Yo, when we turn the page, it is Roger. It's Goldie. Oh, okay. And I see King over here on the left. Okay. Here we go. Big Goldie, number 1, 5.564. 800. Yo, this is a crazy bounty, man. Like, when you actually think about it, the fact that he's 500k ahead of Whitebeard, the fact that him and Whitebeard are the only ones in the 5 bill range is just, it adds more to that legend. And I'm so curious, right? Because we've talked about this before, especially when this chapter came out. I believe in the afterthoughts, we all were discussing the same thing. Like, is Dragon's bounty the absolute highest in the series, since he is the most wanted criminal? And Roger's the most wanted pirate because Dragon's not a pirate. He's a criminal. He's a revolutionary. So it's not under that same line. So I wonder if Roger's the most wanted man ever, and or is it that Dragon is the most wanted man? We just haven't seen his poster yet, so of course he's not going to be in this bounty. I'm going to assume that's what it is that Dragon is still the most wanted individual, but we're just not seeing him here because it hasn't been revealed yet. So if Dragon is real deal about to have the highest bounty, I wonder what his bounty is going to be, and if we're going to see it anytime soon. I mean, that thing's going to be nuts, right? It's going to be crazy. So, from legendary grid pirates to the rookies of the new age, and an up to date list of the highest known bounties. So, of course, Roger, Whitebeard, 3rd Kaido, 4th Charlotte Linlin, 5th Shanks, 6th Law, Luffy, and Kid, with Teach being 9th. First and foremost, love the choices for Law, Kid, and Luffy because it appears that all three of them are in their exact bounty poses. From what I remember in chapter 1053, they look very similar. I say that because of Luffy and Law's. I'm trying to remember. I don't think Kid's is exactly like this, but I know Law and Luffy's are very similar to this. But regardless, with the Gear 5th pose and then Teach. So, going back into the Teach conversation, for me it's interesting because I remember the week going into chapter 1053, my biggest thing was I thought that Blackbeard was about to have a massive bounty increase because, and I think more so that is about to end up being the case with Buggy's most recent climb into the Four Emperors, right? Because now that we have Buggy as an official member of the Four Emperors, we're led to believe that something major happened with Buggy, regardless of however he got to that point, that caused him to be named one of the Four Emperors. And so if that happened with Buggy, I'm really interested in seeing what happens with Blackbeard, because we know that Blackbeard was on the way to go get something, and if that something is seen as a threat to the WG, then they're about to put a massive bounty on his head, which is why going into chapter 1053, I was like, Blackbeard's about to have the biggest bounty. Like, out of the known pirates, outside of these individuals, of course, now that Linlin and Kaido are also down for the count for now, right? Of course, they're not going to have their posters all over the place because that's why Green Bull's there. You're probably to go collect them and whatnot, right? So, of course, we know that Big Mom's going to get out of there, and Kaido, who knows when the Flying Thunders he's going to do. But out of the active pirates that have not been defeated, right, that are missing in action, I thought that Blackbeard was going to have the highest, considering, or I think he's going to have the highest by the time we get to Laugh Tale, considering that he is going to be representing the highest opposition, the biggest force. And then we remember back in the 2018 comment that the Lurking Legend was going to be like the biggest enemy that Star's ever faced, and we all assume that to be Instant Messenger Sama, right? I mean, it's obvious it's Instant Messenger Sama, so it's like we know it's going to be Blackbeard, then Im, then Blackbeard, whatever it is, but Blackbeard, I think, is going to be the most wanted pirate at that point in time who's still active. And I think the series is going to go in that direction still, that by the time that, before Luffy becomes Pirate King, and before, of course, Luffy defeats Blackbeard, Blackbeard is going to be the most wanted individual in the world, especially if the Shanks Blackbeard stuff has already happened then. But if Oda wants to keep Shanks with the highest active bounty among pirates, I can also understand that as well, considering that Shanks is the individual Luffy's been looking up to the most, right, this entire series. So by the time all of that stuff goes down and then Luffy surpasses Shanks' bounty to become the most wanted pirate in the world, that would also be a really sweet moment too. So it depends on Oda, honestly, on the way he wants to go about it. You know, showing literal being the world's biggest threat right now for Blackbeard to have the highest among active pirates later on down the line, or if he's going to keep it as Shanks until Luffy surpasses him, you know, truly showcasing the passing of the torch and the next generation surpassing the generation that came before it. So I wonder how Oda's going to go about it in for that particular thing. But regardless, we'll see that when it happens. And but for right now, Shanks does have the highest bounty among the active individuals that have not been defeated. So I look forward to seeing, of course, what's going to happen with Big Mom and Kaido. That's one of the biggest question marks that we all have. But man, I just can't wait to see Shanks again, dude. So we have Shanks and Blackbeard here, of course, and like I said, the three Supernova big captains. So coming right after them, though, at number 10, we have my boy King, then we have Marco, then Queen, then Katakuri, Jack, Smoothie, Cracker, Perospito, Sabo. So it looks like everybody's is pretty much the same from the last time that we saw them. Ace, Ors Jr. Shout out to Ors, yo. Little Ors Jr., man. That is an unsung MVP of this series. That is a legend. All right, shout out to Little Ors Jr. Who's Who, Chinjiao, Izo, Black Maria, Weevil, Sasaki, Belobeti, Jinbei, we look down, 30, Tamago, Ulti, Karasu, Pedro, Apu, Capone, Gang, Beige, Doflamingo. You know, Doflamingo's... The Shishibukai are always the most interesting when it comes to, I wonder what their bounties would have been had it not been frozen. Sanji, Peckham's, Cavendish, Zoro. Now look at this, right? This just goes to show that the battle that we just won seemed unwinnable. Because Sanji and Zoro are 37th and 40th. Ulti, Black Maria, Jack, King, Queen, all these individuals, Who's Who, Sasaki, they are all way higher than our squad. And we still out here cashing dubs. That's how filthy we are, man. I'm really looking forward to seeing our bounty increase. Outside of Luffy's, like what the rest of the Straw Hats bounty increases are going to be and when are we going to get those. That's going to be an exciting time whenever we end up actually getting those bounties in particular. But it said after Zoro, Hawkins, Gekko Moria, Lindbergh, Charlotte Oven, Daifuku, Lindbergh. Wait, we got Lindbergh's bounty? I honestly do not remember. Oh yes, yeah, I think we did. So see, this is what I'm saying, y'all. This is what I'm saying right here. So in regards to Sabo, Belobeti, because the Sabo one, that's one we know for a long time. And I forgot about the was that in the story? Hold on, let me pull up chapter 904. Let me pull up chapter 904 real quick. I might be tripping. I might be tripping. It wasn't in that chapter. It must have been in a data book. Hold on. Was it in that chapter? It wasn't in that chapter. It was not in that chapter. So, it was not in that chapter, and so that must have been in a data book. That must have been in a data book or an SBS or something. So, Belobeti, 457. So, look at this, right? Okay, so Sabo, of course, 602, and I'm trying to get to the dragon thing, right? This is why I still believe that whenever we see dragons is going to be insanely high. It's going to be the most. Like, dragon's going to have the highest bounty by far. And what's crazy is, look at all these individuals that we're seeing, right? Like, the closest to the peak is Sabo at 602 as the right hand. So it's like, the fact that dragon, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, dragon has like 6, right? And a little bit higher than Roger. That means this man's going to have 5.5 bill. He's going to have Roger's bounty higher than Sabo. if Dragon is truly the most wanted criminal in the world, as it's been stated throughout the entire series. So I'm very interested in seeing Dragon's bounty, man. So Belobeti, Lindbergh, we see it right here. Oven, Daifuku, Caesar Clown, Kuma, Morley, Page 1, Fisher Tiger, X-Drake, Sai, Caribou, Squard. Shout out to Squard, man, and that whole story back in Marineford. Usopp, Kaler, Bartolomeo, Bellamy, Coribou, Orlumbus, Julie Rubani, Nico Robin, Charlotte Montdior, Rouge, Bobbins, shout out to Bobbins, man, Dory, and Broggy, and it's really cool they're still there, holding it down with the same exact bounty. And now, down here, and there are more characters of note, and we see Mihawk, Hancock, Buggy, Dragon, Rayleigh, and Zebek. Rox D. Zebek. Fierce legends of the era. With the dissolution of seven warlords, a good number of high bounties are set to be reissued. Oh my goodness, dude. Yo, for all of these, I cannot wait. So, I'm interested in seeing what Rox's bounty is, obviously, because that is probably going to be an all-timer right there. Dragons is the one I think all of us, bounty-wise, now that we've seen Rogers and Whitebeards, I think all of us are most excited for Dragons because this is the individual the entire series we've been told is the most wanted criminal. So it's like, how high is that bounty going to be? Buggy, knows one of the four emperors, of course, he has to be up there with the rest of them, bounty-wise. Hancock and Mihawk are very interesting. Mihawk, in particular, fascinates me so much considering what his status is as the world's strongest swordsman and the fact that he's solo dolo with no crew. Like, I wonder how high their bounties are going to be. Mihawk can't be anything less than a bill. I don't think any of us would ever accept that, right? Mihawk's too big of a threat. Like I said before, if you don't have an admiral, at least one heading that man's way, don't even try it. Don't even, if you're sending vice admirals, just know you better, send some compensation to their family because they're probably not going to see that individual ever again. They have to send an admiral to deal with Mihawk. That's just the way it is. That's the way it goes. Mihawk is that dude. He is that dude, right? And so I wonder how the bounty is going to reflect that. And in that same regard for Hancock, a very formidable individual in charge of an entire island of other individuals too as her crew. I wonder how they're going to take that into consideration as well. I mean, by the time we see Hancock again, she might even be captured because of the whole Kobe thing. So very interesting scenarios there. But of course, I think the most interesting ones here, Rayleigh is going to be pretty interesting considering that we already know Rogers. His is probably going to be super high. But Rocks, from an all-time standpoint, I'm interested. Dragon, like I've been saying this entire time, I think it's going to be the highest, period, until probably Luffy surpasses it one day or something. And then, of course, the Buggy, Hancock, and Mihawk thing is going to be super interesting. So then we go from there, and here we go, Gear 5 time! This is what I want to see the most, man. This is what I want to see the most. So we see Gear 5th. When we get to see the final panel from Gear 5th, from Chapter 1044, when he's looking back, a body with the properties of rubber, an odd dance that made people laugh. The concept art here shows Luffy striking new gear, witness the peak of his powers, the pinnacle, y'all. This is my peak. A dramatic change. These sketches really emphasize the Luffiness of this form. So, utilizing the power of imagination, I love that. I love how that is specifically right here within the notes. So, a few minor notes concerning Nika. A couple of interesting points are mentioned, such as the powers of imagination and the drawbacks of Zoan Awakening. So, let's start from the left and work our way around. Nika is able to win people over, and that is crossed out, right? So then we see utilizing the power of imagination, Luffy's power. Zoan Awakening, unlike Paramecia's, carry risk. We look down, impel down guards already show the drawbacks. The innate nature of their respective animals consumes the Zoan user. Should it awaken, what will be the fallout? Sun God Nika. In the past, everyone believed in him. A smile that lights up an age. Freedom can really cut loose with this power. Devil fruit. This awakening actually happening is a miracle. And so, if this is Oda's initial concept notes coming up with not only the idea of Nika, but also while coming up with the idea of Nika and the idea of Luffy's awakening, because this is all together, right? So it looks like while Oda was constructing the idea for Nika in his head, the idea for awakening in his head, and the idea for this to be Luffy's awakening in the future, this was all in his mind, and he was thinking about this at the same time whenever it is this note was made. Whether this note was made back before the beginning of chapter 218 and 1017, when this is originally brought up into the story, or whether this was brought up, or a note taken way earlier. I mean, I see Queen, so I'm going to assume, is that Queen? I want to say that is. But regardless, I can't tell. I can't tell. But regardless, we get to see that those ideas were always, or not always, but they came together. So it's like Oda knew that he wanted to give Luffy a Zoan awakening. And that adds on to the whole thing that the gears always reminded us of the whole Rumble Ball thing, right? And it was like whenever Chopper transforms in different forms too. So it's like Oda in his mind potentially, maybe not all from all the way back then, right? But once he actually started putting these things together, he was like, you know what? This is very similar to a Zoan transformation. And I wonder what I can do with this now, since I'm going to be moving from the Paramecia side of things to the Zoan side of things, and the different after effects that these take on the individuals that are utilizing it. And so it looks like he always wanted Luffy to be able to utilize the fullest extent of his abilities by truly harnessing his imagination and allowing it to showcase itself, right? That was always there from the beginning. Even going back to the impel down guards, like whenever he initially brought up the concept of not only awakening, but Zoan awakenings. And then the Nika thing, so it's like in his mind, he was like, okay, Nika, Luffy's powers, imagination, and carrying risk, the Zoan. So it's super interesting to me that all of this was thought of around the same time. So it's like Oda had a general idea of where he wanted to take this whenever it is that this note was taken. And from a creative process, I think that's really cool. Because just imagine, because the way that the creative process works is you come up with one idea, and then it's like a snowball effect. Like, oh, now it's this one, now it's this one, now it's this one. So I wonder if Oda was just typing or writing, in this case, a couple of notes down one day, and he was like, okay, so I've got this upcoming. I know I want to give Law and Kid the awakening against Big Mom and Kaido. Obviously, Luffy being the main character, he was super excited to get to this point in the story so that he could potentially. I mean, we remember back in Dressrosa when Doflamingo brought up awakening once more, right? So it's like maybe this is something that's been cooking in his mind since then. So he always knew against Kaido, potentially, he was like, against Kaido, he's going to awaken. Maybe he didn't know what that awakening was going to be, but he was like, okay, against Kaido, he's going to awaken. So we get closer and closer, we start getting to it. Maybe he's analyzing Zoans, he's analyzing the way that Zoan and their forms works, and he was like, you know what? Zoan awakening, Luffy, of course, the entire series taking inspiration from so many different things, but now not being limited by reality, not being limited by his body. Now he can turn other things into rubber as well. So it's like now we're getting to a situation to where he's connecting Luffy's awakening to this individual he created in Nika. Because of course, even though the Sun God has been brought up in multiple different points within the story, we don't know if the name Nika and all these things have been thought up since all the way back then, right? I mean, it's Oda, right? It probably could have. But let's just say for the sake of argument here that all of this was at the same time. But it's so interesting to me, regardless, the fact that all of these things are on the same piece of paper, considering if this is whenever he had that snowball effect of this, like he was just spitballing, and what we got of it was chapter 1044 of Pinnacle of Peak. It's so cool to me how we got from that to what we got, and I find that to be so fascinating. So we look over to the side. We already see that he had the initial idea of the pose, the Nika pose. We see him utilizing suction right here to show the limitless capabilities of his ability. We get to once again see another version of that panel from chapter 1044 right here, and we get to see how crazy his hair is going. So, and this is actually really interesting in regards to, remember the end of chapter 1043. So maybe remember when 1043 went on that break, and of course, the Weekly Shonen Jump, they're about 2 chapters ahead. So when Oda had that week to just think of Gear 5th ideas, more concept art, because I'm sure he was working on this for a while, but in that particular week, I'm going to assume that a lot of this stuff, or some of this stuff, was from that particular week where he was like, okay, let me mess around with this. Let me mess around with a few of these ideas, see what's working, see what's not working, see what I like. And it looks like he was pretty consistent. Now let's look over to the left side of the page. So here we see Smile, and we see Luffy smiling, and he always had the long hair. It looks like he always wanted Luffy to have the crazy, flowing, Super Saiyan-like hair that, of course, we see him having. And I'm so glad that was always a thing from the very beginning. So we have Smile and Giant. He always wanted Luffy to go Giant form again. Once again, showcasing the smile down here as well. Nika. So, and he's laughing. This is cool. He's laughing again over here. He's mischievous. The Gum Fruit's true name is Nika, Sun God, Awakening. So this is really cool. This is really, really dope. So here we see Oda really exercising what he wants to utilize with his ability. And so if we're seeing this from the fact that he's, of course, thinking of concept ideas, which this could be super far back, of thinking exactly what he wants to do here with the Gum's true ability, the Gum Fruit's true name, what Luffy's awakening is going to be, all these things, right? He's just spitballing. He's spitballing, trying to get to the idea that he's going to get, that he's going to use and utilize within the story, because it's something that's on a weekly basis. You can't go back and revise it. So once you got it, you got it. And that's what makes the weekly writing experience so challenging, and why I really applaud all these mangaka, because it's like you only have one shot, man. And so seeing this, it looks like the general idea was for the long hair, being able to utilize your ability to the highest degree with the giant form, always smiling, always laughing, being mischievous, even having the true name of the fruit. So this is dope. I like this because it once again going into Oda's mind of like, okay, this is what we were, or this is what Oda was like whenever he was revising and thinking like, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And it looks dope. As expected, words like Sun and Nika show up in these notes, but Giant is there too. Was becoming gigantic originally part of his awakening transformation, and that's super interesting. For me, the way that I see it outside of that is that Oda now seeing that Luffy is not going to be limited by the restrictions placed on his body, even though there was barely any restrictions to begin with. But now that the limiters are truly off and he's reached the pinnacle of his ability, reaching the giant state that you could only utilize one body part for in gear third, now utilizing in full form, it feels like that was something that was always going to come someday. And the fact that that was one of the first things that Oda thought of, and it really puts into it puts into context just how awesome, or I really know how to word this, but it frames that chapter 1045 spread with Luffy in giant form about to stomp on Kaido. It really frames that in a different type of light now, because we see that from the very beginning, from the early concepts of Luffy's awakening of Gear 5th, he was like, I want Luffy to turn into a giant in this form at some type or way, right? So, and you can tell when we get that panel of him turning into a giant, that is one of the coolest, most awesome panels in the whole series. And you see that was, that even though that panel itself may not have been thought of, the idea of him turning into a giant really does portray itself within that panel of like, man, the excitement, like, yes, I finally get to draw this. And now, like, seeing this, I understand why Oda was so excited about drawing 1045, because not only did we see all the other crazy stuff in that chapter, but he was finally able to draw the giant form too, which I'm going to assume he was holding himself back on because there's only so many pages that you have, and he didn't want to interrupt the flow. That was the perfect chapter 1044. He was like, I'm going to put this in 1045, the showcase, because 1044, there's this big aura of mystery. What is it? What is it? The final spread, you see all the craziness, right? But in 1045, you get to see the full showcase of the abilities. And so he was like, I'll save it for then. And just to see that he utilized the giant form in the way that he did, it's like, now it makes sense. It makes sense why that panel was so awesome, because he was so excited to draw this. I mean, we see it clearly right here. And then we look at to see some more, and it looks like he was always laughing. I'm Luffy, grinning. We see a serious form. We even see one with hair over the eyes. So it was always going to look like this. Gear 5th was always going to look in some way, shape, or form to this. And I love that. I really, really love that, because it just goes to show that from the very beginning, he was like, this is what I want to go with. We're just, refining, seeing exactly what we want to go with here, but it looks like this was, oh man, here we go. Look at this, even more sketches. How zany. These sketches show the unorthodox Gear 5th in action. Luffy said it best himself, anything's possible now. Gear 5th gives him unparalleled freedom to fight in any way that defies common sense. Even the ones taking his attacks are effective. And I love that. That's why Gear 5th to me is the coolest ability ever. It's because of that right there. Anything's possible. It is that quote from Jaya, that anything man can imagine is a possibility in reality. It is that quote. It is One Piece just represented in an ability, and it's Luffy represented in ability as the warrior of liberation, as the embodiment of freedom. Now he's not restricted, man. He can do whatever he wants, and it's so cool. It's so fitting for Luffy, right? And I love it as somebody who loves themes. I love it as somebody who loves really wacky and the cartoony stuff in this series, and I really, really love it for what it represents within the story. And it's the perfect. That's why Gear 5th to me is just so GOAT, right? And just seeing this right here is, I love it. So we get to see, of course, the picture or the sketch that we saw at the beginning whenever we opened up the Road to Laugh Tale 4. His body has properties of rubber. It adapts on its own. A warrior who spreads laughter and relieves suffering. Slaves in ancient times believed they would be freed by a legendary warrior, and this, of course, is Nika. The more he laughs, the stronger he gets. So this is interesting. The more he laughs, the stronger he gets. So the more Luffy's having fun, the stronger he is. So no wonder in the battle against Kaido, he continued to say, oh, I'm having fun. No. See, having this context, remember how at the end, we actually had this discussion, I believe it was after chapter, I don't remember if it was 1041 or 1046. I don't remember, but I think it was after 1046. Or it was after one of those, where somebody in the comments section was, when we were streaming, they were like, all of these chapters have been ending or some of these chapters have been ending in a very similar type of way, with Luffy stating he's having fun and like asking Kaido, basically like making them both say they're having fun. And now with this context, it's like that's the thing that ties this together, is the more fun he was having, the stronger he got. And we see that in chapter 1042 when both of them were having so much fun. When we saw Kaido having the time of his life, and that was taken away from him, that was both of them hitting the peak, right? Like they were hitting the pinnacle of their abilities. And then of course Luffy comes back with Gear 5th and is in the truest pinnacle of his ability, and now they're really having fun out there and going in. But just the more he laughs, the stronger he gets. That really fits not only just for Gear 5th, but it looks like that was a common thread that was there from the very beginning. Because like I said, so many of those chapters ended with, oh, I'm having so much fun. I'm having fun. Oh, this is really getting good now. Like, and we wondered why that was so consistent. And even though this was something that we brought up, to get this confirmation here is super dope. So the more he laughs, the stronger he gets. And we see him laughing. A cheeky Luffy expression, and back view of his showdown with Kaido. Pure white state. Oh, the Gear 2nd pose peak. That is still one of my favorite panels in that chapter, man, for chapter 1045 of his showdown with Kaido. The pure white note might indicate that the coloring of this form was already determined at this point. That is true. That is true. So it looks like from the very beginning, Oda had it in mind, like, this is going to be a pure white state. A pure white state. And we see him right here. Oh, is he doing the run? So here we see him whacking. Oh yeah, whenever he tosses the lightning bolt. So we see the lightning bolt right here. We get to see him with a giant punch coming up here. And then is this whenever he and Kaido... Is this when... Oh, I think this is whenever he's launching the lightning bolt. Even the battle-hardened Kaido was surprised by Gear 5th adaptability. Luffy sends an enemy flying with his power. A sound effect is heard and stars appear around them. As Kaido said, it's just like a picture book. It really was like a comic book. That's what makes it so goat. So, of course, Luffy trolling. We see a bunch of trolling. We see the eyes coming out of the head, Tom and Jerry style. The I'm out of stamina moment. Him doing the Flintstones run. Many unique details were considered. It seems the eyeball popping and leg swirl dash made the cut, of course. Yeah, of course. So looks like some of these might make the cut later on, because it's Oda, and we know how much classic cartoons had an impact on the early developments of this story. And because, you know, that was one of the things that really attracted me to One Piece whenever I first got into it, was how different it seemed from its contemporaries in just the way that it looked and it felt. You know, One Piece really felt like one of those like 30s or 40s with a little bit of like the Disney Renaissance era of not only just in its storytelling, but also with the way the characters moved, the way they acted, the character animations, the facial expressions. It really felt very like 30s, 40s cartoon animation with like a lot of the Disney Renaissance era. And that's something I really, really loved about this series. Especially when I first got into it. That was one of the things that really kept me going. I was like, yo, I love this. Like, I love how expressive everything feels. And now with Gear 5th is that to like, you can really tell this is Oda just having so much fun. Like, he finally got to this point, right? Like, yes, I can do whatever I please with the cartoony, whimsical side of One Piece that we all know and love, right? And that's why I love it so much, because now I get to see all these different things. Like, that chapter was truly... I don't think I've ever had more fun reading than like 1044, 1045, because it was truly being able to see all of those like wacky Luffy Tunes abilities, and then, you know, taking all the references in my head. I was like, man, that's the Flintstones run. This is Mirror Force, and even if it's not intentional, like, this is the Magic Cylinder. Like, the fact that we can make all those cartoon references up in our head just made that so much fun, and it made it such a great experience. Excuse me, and it's why I'm like so excited for the next time we're going to see Gear 5th, because it's like now that Oda can do whatever he wants, we can see something we've never seen before next time he uses Gear 5th. Like a whole bunch of things that we've never seen, like just different ways of utilizing the craziest of early cartoon animation, rubber hose animation through Gear 5th. And that's going to be so much fun, man. Just seeing all the inspirations he's ever had just utilized here, like the very best. It's going to be like a highlight reel of the greatest hits Looney Tunes versions, so the greatest hits of like old classic cartoons. I can't wait, because even in that same chapter, we had him do the Popeyes, you know, when his arm swells up and he tosses Kaido in 1044. So much potential for fun battles down the line. And then you have something like the 1045 stretch where he goes into Gear 2nd, it's just raw, and when he's grabbing the lightning and it's super raw. So it's the best of both worlds. It's hilarious. It's so unique and creative with so many different dynamics and abilities to showcase amazing panels, like the giant state, right? But then you also have like the super rawness, man. Like, so when you have a combination of what Luffy's always been with, like the rawness and the goofiness, that's when you strike gold. You know what I'm saying? And so I can't wait to see more of it, dude. Is this it? Oh, more Gear 5th? Let's go! So it looks like this is the final attack, of course, whenever he's coming down with the Bajrang gun. This lightning cladded attack descends and splits the heavens. That's an interesting way of putting that. So this lightning cladded attack descends and splits the heavens. And of course he's coming down and he's hitting Kaido. The Gear 5th super move that finished the mighty Kaido. Kaido's tough hide in hockey made him like an iron wall, but this powerful technique beat him. The concept notes for a Gomu Gomu no Bajran gun include some storyboarded like sketches. So the sky is torn, the reverberations can be felt from 1,000 miles away. Very interesting. So it even pulls out like the Hanuman monkey god state, like that or not state, but like how I remember that was a little note that was brought up for like the whole Bajrang gun thing. And I remember leading up to Gear 5th and whenever we were thinking of theories of what was happening with the whole Joy Boy thing, that this was brought up quite a bit. So to know there was inspiration from that for Luffy's final attack is super dope, because of course when you read in the author's note it's like, oh, okay, so this is what he's going with. But to know that this was like the original idea behind this, and of course also showcasing that the sky, specifically the sky, needs to be torn with reverberations felt from 1,000 miles away, like fireworks, the symbol of liberation, the drums ringing out, the drums of liberation. That was just still the GOATest line of all time, and that's something that Oda really wanted to go with, not only with chapter 1043, but also with chapter 1049 and the final attack. Like, he really wanted to show from 1047 to 1049, showcasing everything that the individuals in Wano had been going through from the very beginning of Kaido and Orochi's oppressing all of them, the dark things that some of them just had to struggle through for the past 20 years, and showcasing that through the individuals who did go through that struggle in Komurasaki or in Hiyori and Denjiro, them having that moment as well as we head into chapter 1049, and then we could see bits and pieces of Kaido's story, how we got to this point as well, and Luffy finally liberating these individuals as they all put up their wishes that they probably never will in a million years think they'll happen on this night. Like, please free us from this dragon, all of this. And who's here to fulfill those wishes? Who's here to free all of them? The man whose heart rings the drums of liberation. Monkey Goat Man D Luffy. So it's like, putting it out like this is what was in Oda's mind. Lightning cladded attack, descending and splitting the heavens, the sky being torn, reverberations being felt from 1,000 miles away, like fireworks, a symbol of liberation, the drums of liberation. Like, this is what Oda had in mind while coming up with his final attack, and it's super cool. I love this. Oh wow, and then we go to something else. So before I go into this final section right here, let me make sure that that my camera doesn't run on memory, because like I said, I did this out on an emergency, so let me make sure we're good on memory and then I'll come back. We should be good on memory. I hope we're good on memory. But let's get back to the Gear 5 greatness. Actually, no, I think now we're in the Secret Tales stuff. So we're unveiling top secret storyboards right here. These concept storyboards were ultimately cut, so this is the first time the public has had the opportunity to see them. Oh, that's really cool. Tales of Odin 1, Odin and Denjiro. The scene set 41 years ago. Denjiro, who idolizes Odin, has just returned from being sent to buy a pot. This may have been reworked into the sequence from chapter 960, where Denjiro tricks a merchant into selling him a pot for half price. That's true. So here we see, haha, you really got it. You're one resourceful brat. Ah, you noticed. I brought you a pot to make Odin. You'll fix him up now, right? Yeah, let's dig in. Look at my boy Odin, man. Tales of Odin 2. And then we go over and we see Kinemon. So, Kingpin Kurokama. Kingpin Kurokama is a character that was mentioned briefly during Kinemon's story. He was originally slated to be a more prominent rival to Hyogoro. His full name was going to be Kurokama Kihei in the final version of this tale. We're told that Kurokama wanted to display the head of the rare white boar as a showpiece, but this storyboard reveals a very different motive. You don't think Boss Kurokama was trying to use it to crush the Hyogoro family? Denjiro's words paint Kurokama as quite the cunning schemer. The white boar... Oh, here we get to see the individual. The white boar was stolen? Yes, boss. Self-appointed overseer of the capital, Kurokama Kie, Hyogoro's rival. And we'll get it back from the bastard Kinemon before he arrives to collect. We took a little hostage. The reward money is ours. We're going to get the boar back. Let me go. You guys are the worst. Kinemon won't trade the boar for me. Stop struggling, Otsuru. Your childhood friends, ain't ya? He's one seriously crazy punk. Exactly, he's hopeless. He never listens. He used to take things seriously. This is perfect. They say that swiping their young will bring down the wrath of a full-on mountain god. It's our big chance if we plant the little runt's head, the little runt's dead body at Hyogoro's, his family will finally be crushed. These foolish brigands served me well, but there's actually no chance it'll actually pay up. They'll serve as bait to draw in the mountain god. Boss Kurokama, we need to move. It's on the way here. You've seen it? Oh, good. Let's capture it ourselves. Ah, in Izo and Kiku. So, Izu and Kiku no Jo are siblings. Their father was the head of a dancing troupe. He turned to crime, and their family ended up losing everything. Odin took them under his wing when he found the two starving street performers. These 4 scrap storyboard pages flesh out the details of how they met Odin. The final version narrates the section briefly, mentioning how the villagers coldly ignored their street dances and how the 2 kids cried upon having some Odin. Also note Odin's bold declaration, life is all about borrowing and lending. Izo's full name is given as Hanayagi Izo, coming from the real world Hanayagi dance school. The final version alters this slightly and their surnames aren't confirmed. Ah, I see. So here we see Ringo Wano's a fire. Oh, in such a snowy day, how can that be? Your brother, Kiku no Jo? Traditional Wano dancing first son of the head of the Hanayagi school, Hanayagi Izo. How cute, what a lovely performance, but don't you dare dance in this village ever again. Please, just a little more. I needed to buy food for my brother. Should have these earnings came from a performance. If that's not enough for you, you can just leave it. You might have been part of a top dance troupe before, but as you can see, that's worthless now. Your father turned out to be a criminal. Don't cry, Kiku, you're a man. Put out the fire. Life is all about borrowing and lending. And that's where the Odin, one of Odin's classic, I guess, lines would have ended up being life is all about borrowing and lending, or that would have been one of Odin's, like what they would have remembered from Odin later on the line, had they actually gone with that. How about we see Izu and Kiku suddenly having appeared and tucked in. Fate's point, bound by piping hot Odin, Izu and Kiku no Jo wanted to become samurai entertainers. They once again shed tears of joy when hearing the request. Take today's Odin, for example. I borrowed the ingredients for someone, right? No, you punched him and stole the ingredients. But I guess you could say it's like borrowing. Either way, I'm grateful. And one day someone will surely pay off my debt of gratitude. Someone, not you. Something good usually comes to people like that, even if they're robbed. In this world, what goes around comes around. You just have to think of the big picture. It really sounds like Odin. That's a good way of putting it, Odin-san. What do you think you're doing? The Odin's too hot for me. Moron, the heat gives the Odin its flavor. It's not Odin if it's not... see, that would have hit. That would have hit. If it's not boiled. Look at them, they're kids and the heat isn't phasing them. Slurp, slurp, slurp. Who are they, by the way? Where did you guys come from? Stop using my burning house to cook Odin! It's that vegetable thief from earlier. I won't let them show me up. You're no better at stomaching the heat, huh? But good on you for being a man and pushing through. I just told you two not to follow us. And then they continue to follow them. That's dope. That's really dope. Look over to the right, we see Yamato and Fuga. Yamato greatness? Y'all know me. I'm all for this. These two characters have a mysterious relationship. Yamato says it's been a long time when they meet, and Fuga happily obeys the orders he was given. But their past was fleshed out in the storyboard. They're on really friendly terms in a snippet, which shows how Fuga wound up eating a smile to get 4 legs. This planned scene depicts Fuga invoking Kaido's wrath by eating a smile fruit, while at his lowest he meets Yamato. So we get to see Fuga. Oh, this might have been in Yamato's flashback. Secretly a smile fruit that should not be broken angered Kaido. Fuga with a bump on his head. You ate a fruit by mistake? Me too. So you ate a smile you weren't supposed to, which made my father mad. Fuga, Fuga. On top of that, your friends are making fun of your legs now? And since you're stuck like that forever, you feel like you want to die? Fuga, Fuga. Is that so? I see. But I think those new legs of yours are really cool. Fuga? Man, see, this would have been great. This would have been great. So this was a cut storyboard that definitely would have connected that whole Fuga and Yamato plotline. And I wonder why this was not included within. But maybe it's because at the time Oda really wanted to keep that flashback as small as possible. This might even be shown in the anime, honestly, right? Like this Yamato and Fuga scene, I think we could see something like this in the anime, no doubt. I guess we'll see. We'll find out whenever we get there. Wano's battles in the skies reached its climactic end. A new shogun is born in the land of samurai, and we see the man, the myth, the legend, Goat Man, adult Momonosuke. I, Kozuki Momonosuke, will lead the land of Wano and across the world. The dawn draws close. It's messengers. We see as the message summon the guard will say, have you decided upon another light to be erased from history? Simply state the name you wish stricken. Blackbeard, Buggy, Shanks, the Gear 5th King, Kid, Law. In the next issue of Shonen Jump, the curtain will be raised on the final phase. Yeah! What a way to end the Road to Laugh Till 4, man. Great stuff. Yeah, I think this was probably... I really, really love seeing the creative process, man, and how a lot of revising can lead to what the final product is. And that's been a great part about the Road to Laugh Till, but here, for stuff that means so much to me in the Gear 5th stuff, I just love so much. That was great. The Bounties section was a nice refresher, and then we got that all the cut like storyboards that could have potentially been used in stories. So what I can gather from that particular section with Kiku and with Odin and Denjiro and with Yamato and Fuga is that a lot of that stuff is still in Oda's mind because, of course, as we know, in a lot of stories, there are a lot of things that we'll never see that the author mapped out, created to have that backstory in their mind as they create something for us, right? But in the Yamato and Fuga case, I really would have loved to get that, and I really hope the anime gives us something like that for whenever that plot point comes into fruition. But that whole Fuga thing is interesting. It's very interesting. But it's just, once again, really dope to see, early concepts for these stories that would later become, the things that we know them now within the Odin flashback and, of course, the Yamato stuff with her flashback. So it's really interesting. And, of course, with Gear 5th, but this is a great way to end Road to Laugh Till, man. The dawn draws close, and we see all of the goats that are going to be major players here. The Gorosei, Im-sama, the 4 Yonko with Kid in Law. In the next issue of Shonen Jump, the curtain will be raised on the final phase. Yeah. This is gonna be peak, man. This is gonna be the pinnacle of the pinnacle, dude. The peak of peaks. On the final phase, yo, that gave me goosebumps, dude. I'm ready. I'm so ready, yo. Y'all have a good one. Take care. Let me know what y'all thought about this edition of the Road to Laugh Till. Any final thoughts on the whole Road to Laugh Till stuff? I think this was a really interesting thing to go through for the past 4 weeks to get us ready for the final phase, for the final saga. What a great way to end this. Is focusing on Bounties, Gear 5th, and on certain things that were cut from the story, because it's always interesting seeing things that could have made the cut but they didn't, and I always love stuff like that. So I will see y'all. Have an awesome day, man. Let's go, dude. Final saga incoming, yo. Let's go.